To the surprise of absolutely no one, Jehovah's Witnesses are already gaslighting themselves after the most recent governing body update, in which David's Blaine clarified that attaining additional education was a personal decision. Since the release of that video, I have seen dozens of comments by believing Jehovah's Witnesses justifying the announcement, saying that higher education has always been a personal decision. They will mention a relative or a friend who went to college without any problem from the elders, or they will mention their own experience. They went to college and never had any problems. They will claim there was never a rule against higher education. Well, today I wanted to take a deep dive into this organization's long record of discouraging college, so that when people like this try to gaslight you, you can show them the receipts. I have already covered the deleted Toni Morris video and the Brother Brown episode in depth, so I'm not gonna play those here, but if you haven't seen them, I invite you to do so because they're the most blatant example of Watchtower's anti-college rhetoric, but they're far from the only examples, as I will show you real soon. The latest governing body update represents a huge change in opinion regarding college education. For most of its history, the Watchtower has painted college education as a spiritual danger for several reasons. First, it exposes you to bad association, aka non-Jehovah's Witnesses. These individuals will push you to do immoral things, like engage in premarital sex or abuse alcohol. Second, going to college exposes you to worldly philosophies, any academic teaching that contradicts Watchtower doctrine, such as the theory of evolution or philosophy. Third, going to college promotes materialism. Watchtower loves to spam Matthew 6:33, keep on then, seeking first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you. Jehovah's Witnesses have long used this verse to claim that as long as you put God's kingdom first, you will never lack any material necessities. So in the eyes of the Watchtower, going to college demonstrated a lack of faith. You were putting your trust in Satan's system instead of Jehovah. And fourth, going to college was seen as a waste of time. Since its inception, Watchtower has claimed that we are living in the last days and that Armageddon could arrive any day now. If that's the case, then why spend 4 or 6 years of your life in college when you should be spending your time warning your neighbors about the imminent destruction? Watchtower would use any combination of these 4 reasons to push their anti-college message. Take a look at this 2008 Watchtower. Attending university was portrayed as a temptation of the devil, just like you would be tempted to smoke a cigarette or watch violent movies or make an internet profile. That one didn't age well. Oh, no thank you sir, I would like to stay poor and uneducated, thank you. This 2011 Kingdom Ministry said, "Your children will no doubt experience new challenges and pressures. Are they prepared for the pressure they will receive to pursue higher education, date, and use alcohol or drugs?" Yeah, putting college education at the same height as being offered drugs. Very subtle. The message was clear. The opportunity to go to college was a temptation to be avoided if you were to make Jehovah happy. Are you still gonna tell me this has always been a personal decision? Oh, but we're just getting started. Let's go through these 4 reasons one by one. Any time you spend in college is a waste of precious time that could be used preaching the good news. This was the main rhetoric behind the anti-college articles, such as this 1969 Awake magazine, which we covered in the David's Blaine video. In the same year, we got this Watchtower, which said, "Many schools now have student counselors who encourage one to pursue higher education after high school, to pursue a career with a future in the system of things. Do not be influenced by them. Do not let them brainwash you with the devil's propaganda to get ahead, to make something of yourself in this world. This world has very little time left. Any future this world offers is no future. Wisely then, let God's word influence you in selecting a course that will result in your protection and blessing. Make pioneer service the full-time ministry, with the possibility of Bethel or missionary service, your goal." And this 2008 Watchtower said, "What though of higher education received in a college or a university? This is widely viewed as vital to success. Yet many who pursue such education end up with their minds filled with harmful propaganda. Such education wastes valuable youthful years that could best be used in Jehovah's service. Perhaps it is not surprising that in lands where many have received such an education, belief in God is at an all-time low. It's rich, right? That the Watchtower claimed that if you listen to your school counselor and decide to attend the university, you are being brainwashed by the devil's propaganda. This is really powerful language, fear-mongering at its worst. Well, it turns out it was the Watchtower who was brainwashing people all of this time. But the doomsday paranoia didn't end there. No, because 4 decades after that first article was released, Watchtower was now telling a new generation. No doubt, school counselors sincerely believe that it is in your best interest to pursue higher education and to plan for a secular career. Yet their confidence lies in a social and financial system that has no lasting future. No future, no lasting future. No wonder so many Jehovah's Witnesses bought into this. They truly believed the end was just around the corner. They bought into this horrible nihilism that could potentially ruin their lives.
Jehovah is soon going to bring a calamity on all flesh, and so we need to be content with what we really need and seek first the kingdom. We're just temporary residents, aren't we?
We all remember an illustration given in Kingdom Hall talks all of the time, and it went something like this. Trying to improve your life in this system of things is like rearranging the tables in the Titanic. You probably heard that one growing up, right? Well, the analogy sucks because I never heard of the Titanic taking more than 100 years to sink. And what's ironic about all of this is that the Watchtower has long had a soft spot for trade schools. They have encouraged young JWs to go to a trade school instead of a university. Trade schools are usually 2 years, and the bachelor's is usually 4 years, which is not a big difference. So why is it that Watchtower was okay with going to a trade school but not going to a university? It's quite arbitrary. Or maybe it's because they wanted people to study trades that could be more easily exploited in construction projects, plumbers, electricians, and so on. But what's even crazier is that Watchtower is more than happy to accept the help of trained professionals like lawyers and doctors. In that Tony Morris video, we had the experience of this JW, Philip Brumley, who was sent to law school by the Watchtower so he could in turn help them in the legal department. Oh, but if a regular Jehovah's Witness wanted to become a lawyer, they would have been scolded by the congregation. The hypocrisy is off the charts. But I'm not done, because while they encourage their followers to not invest in their education and future, Watchtower is more than happy to plan their building projects decades in advance, showing that they don't actually believe that the end is imminent.
But Satan, in effect, exhales the stinky spirit of the world that makes people act like him in being greedy.
Watchtower has often painted people who pursue college as materialistic and prideful. This 1967 Watchtower said, "Rather than being content with sustenance and covering, those who devote themselves to getting a higher education usually want to be able to enjoy the rest of the things that money can buy." What's funny is that your level of education does not always correlate with your view towards money. I'm sure you've seen it. There's wealthy people who are very down to earth and generous, and there's poor people who are very superficial and always thinking about money. And another irony is that people with less education usually have to work more to make ends meet, which leaves them less time to spend in the ministry. Jehovah's Witnesses consider anyone outside of their religion as bad association, regardless of the quality of their character. Interacting with worldly people, outsiders, in the workspace or in elementary school is seen as a necessary nuisance, something you just have to deal with. But going to college, well, that's seen as willfully putting yourself in danger's way. For example, this August 2021 study article claimed, "Parents, endeavor to know what your children are being taught in school. What if you find out that some of the teachings include philosophies that contradict the Bible? Use our publication to help your children reason on convincing evidence. Also, beware of exposing your children to universities where belief in God is scorned by many." I don't know about you guys, but I never met anyone in college who scorned me for believing in God. In fact, there was even a Youth for Christ group in my campus here in Texas. If you're familiar with my life story, you know that I used to preach to my classmates during my lunch break when I was in community college, and of the hundreds of students I talked to, I don't remember any of them ever making fun of me for my faith. But in the Watchtower publications, college students are constantly demonized. I quote, "University and college campuses are notorious for bad behavior, drug and alcohol abuse, immorality, cheating, hazing, and the list goes on. The disintegration of sexual morals is made worse by the current drug craze. Most students in college have at least experimented with some kind of drug. So by guiding their children away from the so-called higher education of today, these parents spare their children exposure to an increasingly demoralizing atmosphere and at the same time prepare them for life in a new system as well." Now, are some college students taking drugs and having sex? Of course, but so are people in the workplace. This has never led the governing body to discourage going to work. So why discourage college? It's simply a double standard. This 1982 Watchtower claimed, but it may be objected, not everyone who goes to university loses his Christian faith or dies of a drug overdose. This is true. Some graduates have become valued and hardworking members of the Christian congregation. But consider, it is also true that not every child who plays on a busy street will get killed by a passing automobile. Some survive to grow up. But would you let your children play in the street in traffic because of that? Does this mean that it is wrong to attend a university? This is something each parent should decide for his own child. Okay, so they left the question open-ended to give like an illusion of choice, but then compared going to college with a child playing in a busy street and potentially getting killed. So what are they implying here? That going to college is putting yourself in needless danger, which again makes no sense because you are also exposed to these so-called spiritual dangers in high school and the workplace. I would argue that those are even more spiritually dangerous since you're forced to spend more time with your worldly acquaintances in recess or at work. In college, it's much easier to just keep to yourself and concentrate on your classes. You're not forced to socialize as often as you do in high school or at work.
Why won't you smoke this cigarette? Are you afraid? Are you chicken?
As we have seen, these are not good reasons to avoid college. You can avoid negative influences just like you do in high school and work. Going to college does not make you materialistic or prideful, and there's no reason to believe the end is imminent since this religion has been crying wolf for decades. Oh, and what should be more important to a believing Christian, the Bible never speaks against going to college. It speaks against vanity and pridefulness and not being generous, but never against education. No, the real reason why Watchtower has been opposed to college for so long is because they don't want people to think critically. Thinking critically means investigating claims, comparing evidence, and citing your sources. And these are things that Watchtower does not want you to do.
The most intelligent and eloquent professors will be trying to reshape the thinking of your child, and their influence can be tremendous.
What's a fourth means by which Satan attempts to fashion us, reshaping our thinking? Higher education. Its whole purpose is for learning, influencing one's thinking. And while a person's intention might be just to create a stable base for a secular future, his decision could expose him to unscriptural ideas and practices.
The Watchtower publications are full of bad, terrible scholarship, such as that brochure against devolution that we saw earlier. That one is super full of misquotations. Of course they don't want you going to college. In college you learn how to cite your sources. They don't want you to be exposed to outside ideas that contradict their dogma. Educated people are more likely to identify logical fallacies, and this religion is full of logical fallacies. It collapses under scrutiny. Education was what eventually destroyed my faith. And I wasn't even taking advanced philosophy classes or something. No, I'm talking high school level biology and history. Education is the enemy of this religion, and it has been that way since it began. Just take a look at what Charles Taze Russell had to say. This was the founder of the Bible student movement, which would later rebrand itself as Jehovah's Witnesses. This is way back in 1910. Question: should the saints go right on and educate their children in this day for earthly positions, knowing they will not get into those positions in this age? Will such an education, college or university, be of value in this millennium? And the answer from Charles Taze Russell? I advise all Christians not to send their children to colleges or universities, for if they do, they will risk a great deal through infidelity and unbelief, and they will be doing their children a positive injury. I think of a dear Christian brother who inquired of me about 5 years ago in regard to sending his daughter to a female college. I advised to the contrary, stating that she would probably lose her faith in the Bible. My advice is then, give your children an education up to the public school limit, not even attempting to take them through high school, for they get plenty of higher criticism in the high schools. And it would not be long before they have it in the common schools also. Does it sound familiar? Don't send your kids to college because the end is very near and they will lose their faith in the Bible. These clowns have been spewing this nonsense for more than 100 years. The photodrama of creation, released in 1914, depicted colleges as an instrument of Satan. They weren't even trying to be subtle. Joseph Rutherford, Russell's successor, continued with this rhetoric and amplified it by 1,000, promising over and over again that young people would not even grow old before Armageddon arrived. But what's frustrating about all of this is that the organization actually relaxed the rules for college education for a brief time, starting in 1992. According to Barbara Anderson, who worked in the writing department at headquarters, this change occurred because of governing body member Lloyd Berry, who was more empathetic towards the struggle of witnesses with low-paying jobs. This pushed the governing body to relax their stance on college, considering it a legitimate option that could help a JW serve Jehovah more fully. Barbara also states that Bethel was in need of educated volunteers, which probably also contributed to the change.
But wait! There's more!
This relaxed stance wouldn't last long because in 2005, they hardened their position in college again, this time with Watchtower articles which were very critical of higher education, going back to that pre-1992 language. It got so bad, in fact, that elders who allowed their children to go to college could potentially lose their position. These were actual guidelines in the Elder Manual, Shepherd the Flock of God, and which were exemplified in that awful training video where Brother Brown is deleted as an elder because his 2 daughters are in college. So no, do not let believing Jehovah's Witnesses gaslight you. This organization has always been against college education. Could Jehovah's Witnesses ignore the council and go to college anyways? Of course, and thankfully a lot of them did. But an ideal Jehovah's Witness was expected to start pioneering as soon as possible and let Jehovah take care of the rest. Just take a look at Stephen Led.
Personally, I am so thankful to Jehovah that positive peer pressure was put on me to enter the pioneer ministry right out of high school. What a blessing and a protection it was to enter the regular pioneer work at age 17 and to be able to go to Bethel at 18. Even though there was considerable worldly pressure put on me to pursue university education, I am so happy that with Jehovah's help, I decided to build my future with Jehovah.
Well, skipping college might have worked for Stephen Led, who now lives off the donations of others in this state-of-the-art condo. But for millions of other Jehovah's Witnesses who decided to follow his advice, it meant sabotaging their future and struggling in their old age. This latest governing body update is a welcome change. I'm glad that JWs can now go to college without the need to feel guilty, but I will not let some indoctrinated PME tell me that this was always a matter of choice, because this update is a clear departure from more than a century of harmful rhetoric. Well, at least Sophia can study butterflies in college now. I want to give a special shout out to Paul Grundy from the jwfacts.com website. He's the one who documented all these old Watchtower articles that I showed you today. Thank you, Paul. Most of them are not even available on the official JW website for obvious reasons. If you would like to support my work, please head on over to Patreon or become a channel member. It's only $1 a month and you get early access to all my work. Take it easy, guys. Have a wonderful day and stay away from the tower.
Receive early access to every Panda Tower video, and your name will appear in the end credits of every video. Wowee!
Bah. Goodbye, little sheep.